Spring is in the air, which means it's about to heat up. I'm talking about recruiting. Before things get too crazy, this would be a good time to see where things stand with some of the top-rated, uncommitted prospects in America. And I got two GOATs sitting here with me to break it all down, Chad Simmons and Steve Wiltfong. But first, remember to jump on board and hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. All recruiting, all the time. Please hit subscribe. All right, we're starting with the top-rated, uncommitted target in America, and that's the number 2 overall prospect, offensive tackle David Sanders from Charlotte, North Carolina. Right now, looking at his recruiting prediction machine, it shows UGA over Clemson, but does this tell the whole story?
It does not tell the whole story, Joshua, because you also have Alabama in the mix, you have Tennessee in the mix, South Carolina, and Ohio State. Those are the final 6. And he's going to take 6 official visits before he makes his college decision. Now, if you would have asked 8 or 9-year-old David Sanders where he was going to go to college, he would have said the Clemson Tigers. He told me that his bathroom was decorated in Clemson gear. I don't know if that's the throw towels, the shower curtain, or what have you, the toothbrush. But he grew up a Clemson Tigers fan, and they're certainly strongly in the mix. And I think a lot of the reason is because of Matt Luke, offensive line coach over there, maybe the most pivotal off-season position coach hire in college football, a position where Clemson has kind of struggled to develop historically, even though they've had such a great run on the field. Matt Luke gives them instant pedigree at the position that David Sanders can point to and say, I can be developed into the best player I can be under Coach Luke. But with that being said, I know they love Georgia. They love what Georgia brings off the field, certainly with Coach Searles, Coach Kirby Smart, the standard that they play at, the competition that you would get in practice. They've done a great job of making David and his entire family feel comfortable, and it's going to be a family decision for David Sanders Jr. with how close that he is with his family. Tennessee's another school that I think doesn't get enough burn in this recruitment. I think that the Vols are a place that he can really see himself, has really connected with that coaching staff, and he's visiting there here in April, and then will return again for his official visit. So 2 more visits in play for the Vols for David Sanders Jr. before he makes his college commitment. Ohio State's going to get the last visit. Buckeyes are going to be all in on David Sanders Jr. He's one of the most coveted players on their board as they try and finish this up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they have maybe so much ground to make up, but Ohio State to me is not quite in the same group yet as Clemson, Georgia, and Tennessee. I think, Josh and I have talked about top tier for David Sanders. I think, if you ask me right now, I think those 3 are pretty tight in that top group, with Ohio State maybe running next in that group of the top 6 schools right now. But like you said, family is so important, man. Not just mom and dad, but sister's involved as well. She goes on these trips, talks to these coaches as well. And it's about relationships, best opportunity, and where he can be developed and where he can win at, I think, long-term, on and off the field. So right now, like you said, Clemson, camped there as a kid, grew up following the Tigers. Georgia, he met Matt Luke at Georgia when he was coaching there for Kirby Smart. Now back at Clemson as the offensive line coach. Searles recruited him at North Carolina first. Now he's at Georgia. The relationships are kind of in place. I think the OVs will play a big role, pivotal role in this decision.
All right, let's move on to the number 4 ranked player in America. That's the number 1 defensive lineman, Elijah Griffin. He's from Savannah, Georgia, and it looks like Georgia leads on the recruiting prediction machine. Actually, Georgia does lead on the recruiting prediction machine, followed by South Carolina. But after what happened with Justice Terry in Georgia, this had to be a bit of a wake-up call. Do you guys see this as a slam dunk for Georgia still?
Did he not commit to USC, Josh, this past week? A week and a half or so ago? Everybody else did, right? It seemed like he was there. He was on campus in L.A. They'll get an OV. USC's definitely in the mix. He's been to Florida. He's been to Miami. He's been to Georgia. I still lean towards Georgia being the in-state school. He's been there 10-plus times. Not just him. Mom, family, grandma. We talk about, David Sanders being a family guy. Elijah's the same way. He's close with his people. They want him in the best position with people that they trust. And them driving up from Savannah to Athens is much easier than getting a flight from Savannah, probably to Atlanta, then to L.A., or even down to Miami. I just like where Georgia's at. The relationships there with Trey Scott, with Kirby Smart, the player development. My RPM has been on Georgia for a while. I still like Georgia at this point.
Obviously, my RPM for Elijah is new on Georgia, as I've just now started logging RPMs. But I agree with you. I think the Bulldogs, they're so strong in that Savannah area right now, too. The inroads that the school has in that community. I like where Georgia stands. Clemson, South Carolina. We've seen South Carolina win some big battles each year under Coach Beamer. Now, that might be for another defensive lineman, Jared Smith, this cycle. I think they're all in on him. Georgia's in on Jared.
Jared Smith,
yeah. So I don't know if I can predict the Gamecocks for Elijah, but they've certainly been one of his favorites since the process began. And Clemson got a visit from him in the spring, but Georgia, as they push for a number one ranked recruiting class, he's one of the most coveted guys on the board. And as of right now, I still like Georgia.
All right, let's slide down the rankings just a couple spots to find our next top uncommitted prospect, and it stops at cornerback DJ Pickett out of Zephyr Hills, Florida, the number 3 ranked quarter in the country, number 7 overall. Now, Miami with a slight lead over Georgia on the RPM, but he's really being recruited from everybody coast to coast. So how do you see DJ Pickett's recruitment playing out?
Well, I agree with Elijah Griffin's RPM reading to Georgia. I disagree with the Miami RPM trend. I like where LSU's at right now. I mean, he was there in January, first time there, loved it, went back early in March. I think the Corey Raymond move, from Florida to LSU's kind of put them, I think, as the team to beat, coming off that second trip to Baton Rouge. I think you got Miami. You hear the last name Pickett. You have to think about Miami there. His cousin just signed with them this past class. His uncle played there as a Hurricane as well. We have Oregon there very much in the mix too. He'll take some OVs. He's mentioned Florida and Florida State, some other schools also. But I think right now, setting the pace in this race for me because of Corey Raymond and the defensive staff now under Brian Kelly, I think it's the LSU Tigers.
If we look up at the end of the year and Miami's 10-2, 11-1 in the college football playoff, it'd be hard for me to think that he doesn't end up with the Hurricanes if they continue on the trajectory that they're looking to have under Mario Cristobal and company. But no question, LSU's one of the teams with momentum in this recruitment. 2 visits to Oregon already. Took his mom the second time. So Oregon, they're one where we're not mentioning them as the front runner for very many prospects right now. But we know when it's all said and done, Dan Lanning and that coaching staff are going to win some of these blue chip battles down the stretch. So we'll see if DJ Pickett's one where they pick up steam as they reshift their focus to recruiting. But Miami, they're kind of the one I'm watching. What kind of season does Miami have? And if they find 3 more wins than they did the year before, like they did the year before, right? They're +3 last year coming into this year. They're going to be super fun. They had a top 5 class last year anyway, so they'll be super fun to watch. And DJ Pickett, be hard for him to say no, I think.
All right, now we slide down to number 11 overall, linebacker Jonah Williams, who's our number 1 linebacker in the country from Galveston, Texas. Oklahoma started trending about 2 weeks ago heavily for Jonah Williams. I think it's above 90% right now. Who do you guys view as Oklahoma's biggest competition when it comes to this Jonah Williams recruitment?
Well, he recently visited LSU, Ohio State in the mix for him. You got the in-state programs. I just think at this point, Oklahoma, he's been there a couple times. Oregon's another contender, but just the soul mission. Oklahoma's knee-deep with a prospect that they're in great position for. Those guys already feel like they're part of the program months before they even announce their commitment, and they've done a really good job there, and it's up to everybody else to continue to try and make up ground.
All right, wide receiver Khalil Lockett, he's out of the state of Texas. He's the last player we're going to highlight here. The number 2 ranked wide receiver in America. Number 1, DeCorian Moore, committed to LSU. Number 2 is Khalil Lockett. And right now, it looks like Texas and USC are at the top of the recruiting prediction machine. But how do you guys see this one playing out?
Well, he's got upcoming visits to LSU, Texas, and Texas A&M. I've always kind of been intrigued by LSU in this recruitment. They were one of the first schools to get on him and do a good job there. Just took a recent visit to Ohio State, spending time with Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, that coaching staff, the standard at the position, the track record. I think it was a very eye-opening experience for him. Penn State's one of his top schools as well. So those are kind of the schools that I'm looking at the most right now. He loved his visit to Texas A&M in the winter. So we'll see what happens when he gets back to the Aggies campus. But those are the upcoming visits: LSU, Texas, Texas A&M.
And Michigan's there too. They're very much involved. Penn State, I've heard as well. And then I think there's a real chance he goes out of state. A&M, I think, is the real player there for the in-state schools. But I think he's looking abroad, opportunities.
Florida State's another one that we need to mention there. Just had a fantastic visit to Florida State. Coach Norvell and their staff, when they get prospects on campus, man, they have a lot of energy around them. Players love being there. I think it's one of the more unique visits with just the personal touch.
It starts
that
for
Florida
Norvell.
State has.
That
Absolutely.
dude is nonstop energy, nonstop.
All right, some great intel there from Chad Simmons and Steve Wiltfong, but where do you guys think the top-rated uncommitted prospects in the 2025 class are going? Let me know. Comment section below. Do you agree with these guys? Do you disagree with them? Let me know. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.